Hey there, and welcome to part 2 of our relationship story. I just wanted to pop on here and say that if you missed part 1, go ahead and check out the link in the description box below, and I will also insert a card in the top right corner if you'd like to check it out. Let's jump in. So I would say the beginning of our relationship, things were really smooth. We just because we were already friends, we didn't have a huge adjustment. I'd say the biggest thing was I was really terrible at having difficult conversations in our relationship. If we had our first fight or an argument, Nick would literally have to sit there and be like, I need you to tell me what's wrong. I'd be like, nothing's wrong, I think I'm fine now. And he's like, no, something's wrong. You need to tell me, or we're not leaving until you tell me. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh no, there was a really good chapel message today about forgiveness and I think I'm fine now. I didn't ever want to talk about what was
the first discussion when something was wrong, I think I had to beg her to tell me what was wrong for 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I just don't like conflict, and I don't know. So the way that I coped with this at the beginning of our relationship was I had to write a letter if I was upset about something. I wouldn't just send it to him. We would sit down and be like, I need to talk to you about something, and I would just give him a letter and he would read it while he sat next to me, and then we would discuss it afterwards. But I literally could not get myself to say the words, I'm upset with you. So that was fun.
That awesome that it was hard to say those words to me.
No, I want to go that far.
But I was so on time for things.
Yeah, that wasn't the problem. But I've come a long way since that, so that's good. Now I just tell you exactly what I want.
It's true.
Maybe you missed the old way.
No,
that's
this
good.
is much better.
Well, I think you're a better husband than a boyfriend too.
That's good.
So.
That's good.
Most people don't feel that way when they get married, I feel like, but we're both much happier being married than dating.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I think we both improved in some ways.
I think so.
So after we started dating, things were great for a long time, but our relationship was not without its struggles. So I remember the spring semester, sophomore year, so we'd started dating in the fall, was really hard for me. I was having these really weird health issues, and it's kind of like an autoimmune reaction. I've never had it again since, but it was basically all my joints were sore all the time, hurt almost like I had arthritis, and I had these bumps on my shins that were really painful. And I mean, walking was hard. Doing everyday tasks was hard. My fingers hurt, my wrists, my elbows, everything. And so I was just really struggling then. And I was going to doctor's appointments all the time, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And they were doing blood tests, and it was just that on top of one of my most stressful semesters of college.
Yeah.
I had one of my very hardest classes that semester. On top of that, my roommate left to go to basic training for the Army, and we were very close. And so we ended up, I didn't have a roommate. So there's a lot going on emotionally at that time. And then on top of that, I think it was either that spring or that summer, we kind of talked through what we wanted to do in the future. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I, at some point in my life, really had a desire to do missions or to live overseas. Right. And Nick didn't. Is what I found out.
I felt like I was supposed to stay in the States.
So even though he grew up overseas, he didn't really feel like that's what he saw himself doing with his life. And for me, I just really had this desire to do that at some point in my life. And so that's obviously, we were kind of at odds with that. And it was hard because other than that, we had no reason to break up.
No,
our relationship was great. We got along with each other's friends. We enjoyed spending time with each other.
We both met each other's parents.
We met each other's parents that had gone well. We didn't fight about a bunch of stuff. I mean, obviously there's disagreements, but it wasn't really terrible, especially with all the stuff that was already going on. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And so that was a really hard time. And we didn't ever break up, but we were still seeing each other. But it was just, everything was overshadowed by that. And so that was a rough time, and I remember just being so sad because I thought, oh, we're gonna break up over this. And in so many ways we're so good for each other. And we both kind of took a lot of time thinking and praying through it. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I at this time I'd added my minor, which was to be a teacher of English as a second language. And I kind of realized that I have this desire to work with international people, But that I felt like through my minor, God could use me to reach out to people like that in the States. And I would still love to have the opportunity to go overseas someday, but I knew that I was like, well, I feel like I could be used either place, and to me that's more what it's about. And I knew that if he really wanted me overseas, like that would happen either way.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, we ended up living overseas for
We
a little
did.
bit,
We did.
which was unexpected. And I promise I didn't force him to do it. I mean, we
No.
both came to the conclusion together, so
We
it
did.
ended up working out. Obviously, we're still together, so.
Yeah.
So basically, we started dating, just to give you a timeline, we started dating in fall of 2010, and that was sophomore year. And senior year came, and you know, there's a little joke, Christian college, ring by spring. Well,
It just makes sense.
yeah, we
Especially
did.
for us.
We actually talked about, when we first talked about marriage, I want to say it was like a year, but like junior year,
It was.
we talked about it.
Yeah.
And I think you came to my grandma's house for Christmas, and we had this whole conversation about it together.
Yeah.
And we had even talked about, well, what would it look like if we didn't get married right after college? And it just didn't make any sense. Like financially, it didn't make sense for our relationship. And so I feel like I was trying to avoid like the cliche of like, oh, ring by spring, but sometimes it just makes sense.
It did. It did make sense for us. And so, yeah, so going into that senior year, kind of realized, okay, at some point we're going to be getting engaged, and sometime we'll get married sometime that summer, because that just made the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, several of our friends were doing that too.
All the other kids were doing it.
Yeah, so you might as well just follow along. Anyway, so a big part of that process, you know, was trying to find a ring, and I was having a lot of trouble with that. So, because I originally was going to propose earlier, I ended up proposing around October 2nd or something like that, right around that.
I think it was October 2nd.
I think that's the day. And so I had been looking, I wanted to propose earlier, but I'd been really struggling to find a ring. I already actually had the diamond, because randomly my mother's side of the family had family diamonds. I mean, if that's a thing for other people, very cool. But that was interesting to me, and I didn't know that. But when my parents found out, they mentioned that, and I talked to my grandma, and I ended up getting one of these family diamonds. And so I already have a diamond. I was just looking for a setting, and I spent a lot of time in jewelry stores flipping through catalogs, and I just wasn't finding anything. And I just remember there was in this one catalog, there was this picture that was, I mean, like the size of a stamp, and it was blurry. But I was like, I think I want that one. And they were like, well, we can have them send it to the store and look at it. And then a couple days later, they did send it, and I looked at it, and I was like, I think she'll really like this one. Mm-hmm. And so then that got to, okay, well, how am I gonna propose? Because originally, I think my thought process was I'd probably propose, because Katie she came up with me to go to my aunt's house.
Yeah, I really thought you were proposing to
She
me
really
that
thought,
weekend.
well, and it's probably when I would have proposed if I had had a ring at that point.
And our friends got engaged that weekend.
Yes.
And I was like, that should have been us.
Yeah.
Because we had been dating longer, so that's how it works, right?
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I don't want to do this, and I knew that I think both of us would have preferred that it was something like that the actual engagement part was something that was more solitary and
more private.
And
I never wanted like a big public proposal. That stresses me out.
No, it was like, okay if people were there afterwards, but the actual like engagement part, yeah. And so then I thought, okay, well, there's this really cool park nearby, and so I went there and I tried to scout out a spot to propose, and I found this really cool spot right by this creek that rang through, and it was just a really pretty spot. And I made a mistake in at least the surprise part, because I really wanted to surprise her, but I'm not a very planned out person, and
I wouldn't say I knew.
She didn't know,
but I had
suspected.
suspicions, because he asked me, I want to say like on Tuesday, if on Friday I wanted to go on a hike with him. Yeah. And that just like never happens. He's like, I checked the weather and the weather looks good. I'm like, who is this person? Like, you didn't do that.
I didn't do
I
that
would be
kind
the
of
type
thing.
of person to do that.
I'd be like, hey, I got a gift card for Applebee's. Do you want to go tomorrow? Like,
No, you want to go in an hour.
Yeah,
Like,
that was more like it. And so, yeah, it wasn't that planned out. And so she had suspicions. But so what I ended up doing was actually I used this. And it also had little
you
extra,
have little things, but they've fallen off. I need to glue them back on.
So I found this, and it's actually like a door that has a photo album in it. And so I just had all these pretty, like, these little notes and
like
pictures
pictures of us.
And that just all kind of built up towards it. And so I was like, okay,
really cute.
I'll use this because I like having the little prop thing.
And at the end it says, like, will you marry me?
Yeah.
And so...
And the reason for the door is because she always said she wanted a turquoise door in her future home. So that was kind of like me being like, I'll paint
our future house.
Our future house.
I have yet to have a turquoise door in my actual house, though.
It's true. We got to work on that one. But so yeah, I took her to the original spot that day, and there was this other couple making out, and I was kind of annoyed because I had scouted out the spot, and so I was like, "Oh no, not here! Let's keep walking." And she was really
Everyone thought it was a romantic spot.
Yeah, and so we walked further down and found this one little place. It was actually like it was this big rock in the middle of the creek. It was kind of one of the second places I had looked at, and so I showed her, I gave her the photo album, went through it, and that's when I asked her to marry me.
And I said yes. So during our engagement, I actually was there for the first semester, and second semester I went to the Dominican to do my student teaching. So I was in the Dominican Republic, student teaching, and trying to plan a wedding. So that was fun. A lot of people helped us from afar, though.
Yeah.
So basically, our wedding was amazing. And
it was pretty great.
It was low budget. It wasn't like it's high budget. I mean, I say low budget, but still expensive, but not anywhere close to what a lot of people pay. So I still have people to this day tell me it's the most beautiful wedding they've been to. And when it's your wedding, you always think like, oh, it's the most wonderful wedding ever. But I've had a lot of people confirm that to me, so.
Yeah, it was very beautiful.
So basically my parents moved from Indiana to Tennessee while I was in college. And the house they ended up buying was literally the perfect wedding venue. It was on the top of, it was like on a mountain with this like mountain bluff where there's like no trees blocking the edge, and then you can see out, and there's all these mountains in the back. And their house was pretty big, and it had a little separate like apartment thing attached to the barn that they had. So I was like, did you guys move here so I could get married here? Because this is the perfect place to get married.
It made sense.
Now there were complications like what happens if it rains, or like food and stuff,
right.
Like having that provided. But I knew I wanted to get married in their backyard. So when you say backyard wedding, you kind of picture like really quaint, but I mean, it was like on the edge of a mountain. It's pretty beautiful. I might insert a picture here so you can see. But basically, I mean, it was in July, so it was hot, and we did not have we had a backup plan for if it rained.
It was a horrible backup plan.
But the backup plan was literally this tiny, tiny church that would have been really hard to fit everyone in.
Yep.
It had like, I want to say bright orange
carpet. And
orange carpet and orange like pews, like cushions.
It was very
And then
ugly.
it had like tie-dye stained glass, basically.
Yeah.
It was awful.
It would have been bad. It just would not have been very
We
pretty.
just didn't want to pay for a tent because tents are so expensive. I mean, we're cheap, but like I want to say it was like over $1,000 for a tent. And I was like, for a tent to borrow it? Like, I don't really.
Well, and I don't think we would have been able to fit any. Like, I don't really know what kind of difference it would have made. So we went with our risky plan, and thankfully it sprinkled a little bit at the beginning of the day, but then it was honestly, we had a sunset wedding, so we had our wedding in the evening, and the reception was once it was dark, and we had like little fairy lights, and I mean, it was just beautiful. We wrote our own vows and stuff like that, so that was really cool. I'll actually include a link down below to our wedding video too, because I'm pretty sure our videographer has it on YouTube, and it was just a beautiful day. Our friends helped out a ton We had
Oh,
so
yeah.
many people
Because we had to
provide
decorate
things.
everything ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, we made pretty much all the decorations. Either we made them or our friends did. We also made these giant, again, turquoise doors seem to be a theme. We made these big, like, turquoise doors that were the entrance for us to, like, we bought the doors from someone or got them. We refinished them. We built, like, a frame. And that's what we walked through to walk down the aisle.
Right.
That was beautiful. I had, like, hand painted a sign for it. And our friends, like, came and set everything up. And even more to my parents' like happiness, they helped tear everything down when we left. And my parents still like rave about how amazing our friends are because of that, because that was crazy.
Yeah, they helped out big time.
So before our wedding, we actually had committed to, ironically, go overseas and work in the Dominican Republic. So the school that I student taught at wanted me to come back, and I was like, well, I'm getting married, so I'm not so sure that's what my future husband's gonna want to do. So I just told him, I was like, this is an option. I'm still applying other places. I haven't really gotten any leads other places yet, but this is an option. And so we kind of went back and forth a lot leading up to our wedding, but ultimately decided to go.
Yeah.
And we were raising support because we were missionary teachers there. So we were raising support, planning a wedding, all this stuff. And by the time we had our wedding, we did not have enough support to go.
No, we were not fully funded.
So we went on our honeymoon, which was to Hawaii, to Kauai, which was really cool. Really nice if you want to go to Hawaii, but you want it to be a little bit cheaper. I mean, yeah, it costs a lot to get there and stuff, but everything you can do there almost is free. Like, you can do all this hiking stuff. There's like the Grand Canyon of Hawaii. We really like that. But our trip was basically gifted to us. Like, some people on my side of the family gave us money for our flights, and his side of the family provided the hotel we stayed at. It was amazing, and we're just so thankful to everyone who helped with our wedding, because we got our wedding cake for free from my friend Chrissy. She decorates cakes and did it for free. My friend Kaylee, her dad was our DJ as our wedding gift, and so we were able to have an amazing wedding, mostly because of just like the really generous people in our lives.
Yeah.
Because we're raising support to be missionaries, and we don't have a big budget, and we never would have been able to do the things we did without the help of people around us. So that was really cool. When we went on our honeymoon, we did not have enough funding to go to the DR, and we were supposed to go really soon. And then while we were on our honeymoon, we got an email saying, like, you have enough money to go. And so we're like, oh. So they wanted us to come, like, right away, like, a day or two after our honeymoon. We're like, we can't do that.
We haven't packed or anything.
But I think, if I remember correctly, it was, like, 2 weeks after our wedding, we were moving to the Dominican.
Yes. Yep.
So we came back from our honeymoon. We had 1 week to get everything ready, pack, and all of that stuff, and then we moved there. Why don't you talk a little bit, just briefly, about what it was like in the Dominican?
There were really great parts about the Dominican, and we really enjoyed, like, getting to know, I mean, a lot of the people that we met there, especially the Dominicans, and we had a lot of friends who were originally from Colombia, and we had great relationships with them, and loved them, and missed them. The work itself was hard, and there was also, I mean, even just adjusting to the culture at first was a struggle, because neither of us were like uber fluent in Spanish or anything.
No, like he could speak better Spanish than me because he knows Portuguese fluently, but I could understand the Dominicans better because I had already lived there for 3 months in the previous school year. And so what we would do is a Dominican person would talk to us in Spanish. I would listen. I would tell him in English what they said, and then he would respond back in Spanish.
They were so confused.
They're like, wait, you can speak Spanish, but you can't understand it, and you can understand it, but you can't speak it? We're like,
it's a very difficult Spanish to understand.
We really loved the culture. We loved, like, the people we met, but the school environment we worked at was very difficult, and I don't want to, like, drag them through the mud, but I also don't want to sugarcoat it. It was really hard.
It was hard.
There were a lot of really high expectations that I don't think were entirely justified. Still would do it again. Like, I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we went there. We learned so much. But it was difficult, and I just...
There's a lot of hours of work.
So many hours. And I now work at a public school that's, like, highly rated, has amazing test scores, is just, like, a really great school. and my workload and expectations are so much less than they were at that school. And I have way more resources here. And it's just, yeah, it kind of feels like there was a little bit of a discrepancy there, which made it hard. I also struggled socially a lot there. I had a really hard time making friends with people. It was just a rough time for me. You connected a little bit more easily.
Yeah.
I think guys make friends a little easier sometimes because you guys are more okay with like, we'll just play sports together and talk a little bit. And I'm like, I want a soulmate friend, you know, which is hard to find.
Yeah.
So we struggled a lot there, but we learned a ton about marriage and communication, and we spent so much time together because we worked together. There were days we'd ate 3 meals a day together because we worked at the same school. We were both on the high school teaching team. So that was
really I think it really helped because when we actually came back to the States, we were used to it being together a lot. So even though we were going to separate jobs and weren't able to eat lunch together and things like that, we didn't fall into that trap of living totally separate lives.
Like a lot of our friends, when they got married, they would be working long hours, 2 separate jobs, like commuting really far, and they would like never spend time with each other. And we got to spend so much time with each other. I think it set like a really good foundation for us, and we're truly like friends. We're truly connected in that way. So then we moved back to Ohio, near where we went to college. When we made our commitment for the Dominican, it was a 3-year commitment. We always knew we'd be willing to go longer if we felt God was calling us to that, but we just didn't really feel...
We didn't really think that that's what he wanted us to do.
Yeah, so we ended up coming back. We knew we had a heart for adoption. We wanted to adopt someday, and so it really made sense to move back to kind of start that process eventually. And we knew that we also needed to save up some money before we did that, and we wanted to have a house. And so we moved back here, and we lived in a rental that was in kind of a sketchy little neighborhood for a little bit, but the rental itself was really nice.
The rental was really cute.
It was an amazing price. It was an old house that was split into a duplex. I loved the floors were beautiful. It had a fireplace in it, like not a working one, but a decorative one.
Yeah.
It was cute. Actually, it was really cute.
Until you walked outside.
Exactly. So we ended up buying this house and adopting our daughter, and that's our relationship to this day. And we were married in 2013, so we're almost to our 7-year anniversary of being married, and we're almost to our 10-year anniversary of starting dating, which is insane.
That's pretty crazy.
Time flies, let me tell you.
It does.
Well, thank you so much for watching our relationship story. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you'd like more like videos with Nick in them, let me know. He is a stay-at-home dad, which is we're all stay-at-home parents right now, basically. Yeah. But if I've thought about making a video about that or doing like a Q&A thing. So if you have any ideas for videos we could do together, let me know. Or, I also was thinking of doing a video about our Enneagram types and how we get along. So if that's interesting to you, I'm a 4 and he's a 9, so that could be cool. Let me know in the comments if there's any other like couple videos you think would be cool. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want more content. Thanks so much for watching.